Everybody, welcome back. And we're going to continue on with the year in review segments that I've been doing. And today we're looking at American Express. And I am not the biggest American Express fan. I am not as intimately aware of American Express as some of my other creators here on YouTube. So I reached out to a pair of creators to assist me in looking at their year in review and kind of going over things. Those being John R. from John's Credit and Travel, and RJ from Do You Take Cards. RJ is also my co-host on the Stack Your Points podcast. Hit the like and subscribe on that as well. We talk about a lot of things on Stack Your Points that are not necessarily what I talk about here, but it's a really good podcast, so you guys should check it out. So John, RJ, and I took time to kind of discuss what's been happening with American Express. They announced that they were looking to revamp 40 products globally. Here in the US, the major American Express non-co-branded card that got a revamp this year was the American Express Gold card. We talked about that. We talked about 3 products being taken off of the public availability, those being the Everyday card, the Everyday Preferred, and the Cash Magnet card. And just kind of talking about what might be happening with those cards, what we expect to happen for the rest of this year, looking forward as well. It's a pretty lengthy discussion, but I think it's a very productive discussion, so check it out. If you like what I do, hit the like and subscribe down below. And check out Stack Your Points, as I said. If you want to become a channel member here and support me here on YouTube, check out the channel membership that is my Tidbits Collector members. $2.99 a month. Be a huge help here on YouTube. If you don't want to do that but still want to support me outside of YouTube, check out the pinned comment down below. I have referrals and I have tip jars across Ko-Fi, Buy Me a Coffee, things like that. So appreciate you taking the time to watch. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. Welcome, everyone, and I want to thank John from John's Credit and Travel for joining me, and RJ from Do You Take Cards. John, RJ, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Not too bad at all. And RJ, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I've had a hectic day. I'm doing this. We're doing a live for Stack Your Points. I'm a busy woman today, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely. So, go on. Sorry.
I'm doing this and I'm going to bed because I have an early morning flight tomorrow. So
back to Iceland. Yay.
Or is Salt Lake City first?
Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. We don't want to take too much of it. So what we want to do, what I'm doing with this series is just a sort of year in review. And I know it's early, but early feels fine because I wanted to do this as back to school and then homecoming. And I missed both of those because school years are hilarious. So now we're just going to do Q4 end of the year review. And you two are two of the creators I think of when I think of Amex. Now, there's also Chad and Sledge and plenty of others. But when I think of Amex, RJ, we collaborate every week with Stack Your Points. John, we talk all the time. And you know, on the other lives and recordings that you do with other creators, we highlight how much you enjoy the Amex ecosystem. So it felt only fair to have you guys help me with this year-end review because Amex is a system that I am only lightly in. I surprisingly got the Blue Business Plus. I didn't expect to do that. And I've previously only had the Hilton Honors card. So I did not have any core cards. I've looked at it from afar. I have my feelings toward American Express, which are kind of complicated by I'm not sure I'm their target audience. So that has always held me up from jumping in. So I just wanted to kind of look at things from this perspective. And like the first question I have for you guys would be American Express pledged to make changes to 40 products globally this year. How would you guys objectively grade the changes that we've seen on products here in the United States? Now, they may be limited, but how would you grade them? And RJ, I'll have you answer this one first.
So I struggle with giving them a grade because I think the only one that most people are aware of, like strongly aware of, is the gold refresh for the personal gold. We talked a little bit before of the recording of, the Delta card's got a refresh and the Hilton card's got a refresh without family language. But the only card that if you asked anybody, name a card that got refreshed from Amex this year, the one that 90% of people are going to name first is the gold refresh. And if I'm grading overall, I kind of have to almost give them not enough info for everything else and then like a B- on the gold. because I don't think it was a bad refresh, right? If you're going to up the annual fee, I don't think the credits that they did to quote offset that were bad. Um, Personally, for me, I think the Dunkin' is the easiest credit they have in their pantheon to really use, unless you're somebody who uses Uber Eats or Uber a lot, because they put that in the account automatically and then you can use it from there versus the Dunkin' you have to have on an auto reload or go in there and put exactly $7 in. But it's very easy to use. Um, so I do think that's a positive. I don't love the annual fee going up, but I don't think there was a world where they were not going to have the annual fee go up. So overall, I would say maybe a C if I have to like include those other cards, but the other refreshes were fine to okay to good, but they're not memorable. And I think when you're refreshing a card, one of the things you have to take into account is, are people now more interested in this card because you've refreshed it? And I don't think that's true with most of what Amex has done this year in the US.
Mhm.
Understand. Uh, John, your thoughts on the refreshes? How would you grade them if you were going to give them a grade?
Well, I'm kind of right there with RJ. I think obviously I think the gold card got the most attention. The Hilton cards got some, the Delta cards got some, but it seemed to me like it was for a few days and everybody forgot, right?
Hmm.
Um, because the gold card is like, for lack of a better term, it's the gold standard. But it, I, I don't, other than the family language, which blows in my mind, everything else was okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. Obviously everybody knows I'm a Delta fan, and I think the Delta Platinum card is very strong. Even with the changes that were made to the Delta lineup of cards, the Platinum card is the strongest of the cards. And, the benefits are what they are, the credits are what they are, th- they work for some, they don't work for others. It's a very, well, as well as the changes to the other cards, right? They're all seem like they're polarizing, but you either love it or hate it. And with RJ's point on the gold card too, it's a food card. I mean, I know that's probably overused in the space, but it is the food card. It's dining and groceries, and the Dunkin' thing, I don't care. It's easy. Like RJ said, I mean, if you live in a metropolitan area, the rest of the credits are good. I think the Resi credit is pretty decent too. I'm actually going to use it tomorrow night in Salt Lake City. So, um, I know they work for some, they don't work for others. I don't hate the changes. If I had to give them a grade, though, it feels like we're not anywhere close to 40 cards,
Hmm.
as Amex promised. I think if I'm going off the top of my head, it feels like 15 or 20, maybe halfway,
Okay.
if that. So grading it, I think yeah, it's kind of incomplete because it hasn't happened to all of them yet. I think it's to be determined, TBD. But if I had to give them a grade, in my mind, for my use case, I would give it a C plus.
Okay. Now, just a small little addendum question here. Do you think, with three cards recently being pulled out of circulation, these being the Everyday Preferred, the Everyday, and the Cash Magnet? Now, I know that these aren't cards that you guys particularly hold, but does the inability to apply for those cards and no communication about what's happening with those cards, does that affect your score at all right now, or is that part of the we need more information?
For me, I mean, it doesn't affect my score as far as what they've done to cards this year,
Hmm.
because those are not, if they pulled the Amex green from the market, for example, that would be a big shift for them. I
Hmm.
think these are relatively lower level. I don't love that right now you cannot get a $0 personal MR earning card that's not a debit card. I don't love that. I don't. I have talked at length about the fact I don't love them not communicating that they were pulling these cards. Even a simple press release like these cards are not currently being offered to the public. More info to come would go a long way for me. I don't love that. For this particular score, no. How I would feel overall about Amex, it will adjust the score a little bit, but not for this particular question.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm right there with RJ. I kind of incorporated the most recent change with pulling those 3 cards. I kind of incorporated that into my score.
Mhm.
Um, you know, banks are pretty horrible at communicating, right? It seems like whatever changes are being made, they do it. Either they do it and then they tell you, or they do it in the dead of the night and then you realize something's changed the next morning. And I'm a big proponent of communication in all parts of my life. And yeah, Amex is not communicating is really that's it's not good, but I kind of already incorporated that into my score. So
Completely fair. So, John, how do you feel about American Express right now in Q4? Doesn't have to be contained to the card, to the changes or anything like that. Just your feeling right now about how the year has gone.
it's been an interesting year. It's been, as far as a fan, like personally, things that have affected me, nothing's really affected me. None of the changes have affected me really. Other than okay, I hold the card, these changes have happened. Now what? You know, Going off that perspective, I think I'm sitting fine with where I am at right now. Um, I feel good about the fourth quarter uh, as far as where MX is going. I know we're going to talk a little bit later about future things and whatnot, what we think, but um, I think that they are. I think they're pivoting into a specific direction, and it's kind of expected.
RJ, your thoughts on where they currently are in Q4 with like year in review?
So I think in business, right, you go and tighten things up and then you let things become a little bit looser and you sort of have those transitional moments between that. I think Amex loosened up their requirements and they loosened up, who could get what card, and they have for a little while. And I think they may be going back towards that transition of tightening things down a little bit. Um, they had a lot of overcrowding in the Centurion lounges. Well, one way to fix that, right, is to tighten up who can get a platinum card going forward. You can't necessarily take platinum cards away from people who have them. I mean, they can, they're a bank. Their terms of service say they can basically close anybody's account for whatever reason they want as long as it's legal, right? But in theory, they're not going to take a lot of platinum cards away from people. So I think they are in that period of we have gotten a lot of people to sign up. We've probably made a lot of money off swipe fees and interest because Amex is one of the few companies that owns their entire payment network. So they're able to just print money whenever they want by just issuing more cards without having to worry necessarily about interest. They get those amazing swipe fees all to themselves, except for the co-brands. Um, so it becomes this thing where they're now in that transitional period. And I think most of the problems people have with Amex are because of that transition and because Amex is tightening back up or leaning towards the tightening back up side, which means that all of the things that people who churn or people who like to put a lot of spend through certain things or optimize certain things can't do anymore. If you're a churner, then pop-up jail is a problem for you. And Amex can use pop-up jail on me or you or John in a way that Chase can't necessarily say, well, Matt's actually at 324 and I'm at 624 and John's at 724. And those are where we can apply for cards. They can, but it's 524 is such an ingrained thing in the community that it changes how people see it. But pop-up jail, we've all normalized. Whether it should be normalized or not, it's a normalized thing for us to talk about and to deal with. So I think as Amex has changed some of those things, they're talked about differently, not because I think they're necessarily doing anything wrong from a sort of a legal perspective or from a moral perspective, but they're not making the people in the community who like to rack up a lot of points in a way that is not just spend a lot of money or hit subs or do that sort of natural thing. So I think that they're suffering from that. They're suffering from, oh, anybody can get a platinum now. Well, give it a year and it's going to be much harder to get a platinum, or it's going to be much harder to get a platinum with a sub. And yeah, if you're 19, you might be like, well, I just want a platinum so I can flex on my friends and, get dinner at 1X. But at a certain point, like the people who are actually getting credit cards who, are going to put 100,000 through it or more do want that sub or going to be more likely to understand what, those things are. So I think a lot of it is due to the transition that they're in. I think we're going to have a much clearer picture this time next year of Amex as a company versus right now, because next year we're going to see exactly how they're going to turn the boat to go and lock things down a little more. Because I know they're trying to lock down the boat, but I don't know how they're going to do it quite yet.
Certainly. Which leads me to this question, since you both have sort of brought it up. Uh, from what I'm seeing, it feels, for lack of a better term, like American Express is going to start moving or maybe returning towards a more upstream or upscale clientele. We've heard folks talk about like the statistics of what a typical platinum card user is, which does not fit most of the platinum card holders that I know. Could this be to their detriment to the every person segment of the points and miles game? The three of us are collectively not the ideal platinum card holder according to statistics, which were just crazy to hear. But do you think they're trying to push more upscale, or is this just a tightening of the belt and everybody will be okay? John, your thoughts on that?
I think it's a combination of the both. I think they're tightening, but they're also wanting to. Like I said, I think as a give it a reference here. I think they're a big ship in the ocean, and they're slowly turning. And I think what they're doing is they are pivoting back to what they were known for before, which is a high end card, high end bank. And so I think that they are tightening the purse strings. They're probably going to tighten down who's able to get a card. Um, and I think that, like I said, they're going after the high spend folks, I can't talk now, high worth folks.
Yep.
And I, to answer the last part of that question, I don't think it's going to be a detriment in my mind. And the reason why I don't think that is because, again, they're going through things right now, right, to weed out the people that don't use their cards, right? I mean, why are you sitting on a $200 annual or $300 annual fee card, $400 annual fee card, $700 annual fee card, and you're not using it? And I mean, it's fine. Amex can get the annual fees, but the annual fees are one one bazillionth of a percent of their annual revenue. So, I mean, they don't care. I think what they're doing is they're wanting people to spend on their cards, and the people that are going to spend on their cards are the people that, like I said before, are the people that get the most value from the ecosystem. And so, if all you have left are the people that are valuing their relationship, but also mainly the people that are high value, high wealth, high worth people that are just plowing hundreds of thousands of dollars on their cards and don't give a crap. That's I don't see them really losing out on anything, because what they're doing is they're cutting dead weight is what I feel like they're doing. So I think they're going to be just fine. I think revenue is going to be just fine. I think they're doing the things to entice people to spend more. So I really don't feel like they're hurting themselves at all.
Okay. RJ, your thoughts there?
So I largely agree with John, but I also I think we as a community have a view of every credit card company that is not necessarily what that company would have the same view of themselves. I do think Amex tends to be a status symbol, but I don't necessarily think it's the same status symbol that we would give them, right? Like you and I have talked before, both on the podcast and not, about the fact you don't think you spend enough to be an Amex customer, but you stay in hotels enough that the green card would probably be a really good fit for you because you're such a free agent that 3x on travel in the community, or I'm sorry, 3x on travel for your hotel stays, for your flights, for anything like that would be a pretty good benefit for you, right? And you don't have to put, 300,000 through that card to get value out of it.
Right.
Especially with the extra points to Hilton because it's a 1 to 2. So there are ways that people who quote don't spend a ton can get value. I don't put 100,000 through my Amex cards. I have 9 Amex cards. I do not put 100,000 combined through those 9 Amex cards. I put, tens of thousands through those cards, but I am not putting what somebody would typically put through, and I use typically in quotes, a platinum card, right? But I fly multiple times a year. My family flies multiple times a year. I tend to book the flights for my family because I am the best in my family at figuring out how to get from point A to point B with the easiest path between those two. So it's much easier for them to just let me do it and then pay me back. And then we don't have to worry about my mother buying shoes for my grandmother and using points on her city card to do it and me having a small aneurysm from the front seat, right? Like there are there are things that we think of Amex, and there are things that Amex think of themselves, but some of it is marketing. Amex is going to market themselves as premium the same way Apple markets themselves as premium. Like an Apple iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is what I'm filming this on, and whatever the newest generation of Samsung is, are roughly the same price. Apple just chooses to market themselves as more premium than the Samsung does. But there's not a fundamental difference. Like you can have your preference in operating system, and John and I have had a lot of conversations about operating system preferences, right? But at the end of the day, they're both roughly the equal phones. Chase is roughly equal to Amex in dollars and cents ahead of Amex, but their cards are roughly the same. They just have different marketing strategies around how to market themselves. So I don't necessarily think that Amex is becoming more premium. I think they're just changing how they're marketing and changing from a more permissive to a more restrictive model because they do need to clear their book of business, but I don't think they're necessarily becoming more premium in the process. If you spend $10,000 a year and that's it through your gold card, but you swipe it a ton because you're buying, $20 or $30 a day on groceries or food. You always pay your bill. So maybe you're not doing interest, but you're getting those swipe fees. Like they're happy with you, right? Like you don't have to do a ton. Like you would still be somebody that they would value. You would still get some good offers. You would still get, potential really good upgrade bonuses if you did go to a platinum. There are a lot of things that you could get with that, and you're only only putting 10,000 through a card. So sometimes I think the community has these Amex is like the class president and the bougie kid in the corner, and I think that some of it's true, but some of it's just really good marketing. Like it's the movie version of somebody's life versus the actual life story.
Good points.
No, definitely. When I think of credit card issuers as like high school students, which I know sounds weird, but just bear with me. Amex has always come across as like the popular, like the prototypical movie stereotype quarterback, who gets everything sort of not necessarily handed to him, but like we know that stereotype. And some of the others are slightly different. I always come down to Chase being the kid who knows everything but sucks at doing homework. So the last question I have for you guys is, what are you hoping to see through the end of this year and into next year? Since it sounds like this year, this quarter, and next year is the beginning of a transition, or as John said, turning the boat. What do you guys kind of forward thinking see for Amex? And I'll start RJ this time.
I think they need to have more than just the green, the gold, the platinum, and the two cash cards. I think they need to have more than that in their lineup. And I mean other than co-brands, right? Because co-brands are great. Co-brands are very lucrative. The Delta partnership and the Amex partnership should, if it's not studied in business school, should be studied in business school for just how amazing that partnership is for both businesses. Um, so I think that they need to make the gold, the green, and the platinum have a buddy that's a $0 annual fee card, simply to entice people to go up that ladder. Now, one thing that we haven't mentioned is like you could not product change from the everyday or everyday preferred into a green, gold, or platinum because they were charge cards, and the two other cards that have been sort of taken off the market were not. I do wonder, they have kind of half changed those three cards into more traditional credit cards, because now you have the pay later stuff, and you can get interest on those cards. You can turn it on as an option to kind of make it a credit card. I do wonder if they're going to internally kind of change them all to credit cards, but just have that on and off button so they kind of are charge cards. If that is going to be a path they do, simply to have a $0, or if that $0 is going to be a charge card, but you can still turn interest. Like, I wonder if they're going to do some back end math to sort of make it a path, because you need a $0 card you can go down to, right? Like, from just a logistics perspective, from a marketing perspective, here's the card that you can start with, and you can get 1.5 points per dollar, and it's not a great card, but if you need to get out of the gold for a year, here's where you can stash your points, and everybody's happy, right? They can do some things like that. Or 2x, you have the Blue Business Plus, you know it works, just make it 2x. But anyway, to get out of that, I think they have to have that $0. I think they have to have something, because the green is going to go up probably to 199 on a refresh. So you need something between $0 and 199 or 250 or wherever it goes to, sort of a mid tier. They need a gas on a non-business card that really, matters. There's a couple other categories they could go with. So I foresee some changes to their lineup. I see a couple of upgrades. The platinum may or may not be upgraded. I really think that the 50th anniversary is where that one gets upgraded. I would kill for a 2x or a 3x mobile wallet category, because you want me to use my platinum, put it on a mobile wallet category, and I will use that platinum more than I will ever use the gold. I will take a point haircut to not have to pull my wallet out of my pocket. I like mobile wallets that much. I can also just put the card at the bottom and I don't have to think about it, which is always great, because then I don't have to find and tap and whatever. I'm the old man yells at cloud a little bit sometimes, and that's my old man yells at cloud, is I have to find the card and tap on it. But yeah, anyway, I do see good things coming up, but I think they're gonna piss off the churners and the people who love the ink train and all of those people before they're done. And then they're gonna put out an Amex Titanium, and it's gonna have a 500,000 MR point sub for like a $35,000 and spend over 12 months, and everybody's gonna lose their mind and get the card. So I think it's an ebb and flow. It's a cycle, and it'll be fine. I think American Express is going to survive 2025, guys. It's my prediction for 2025.
I would just say credit card issuers on a doomsday clock, Amex is nowhere near it. That's a pretty safe one. John, what would you like to see through the end of this year and going into next year as the boat slowly turns?
Well, RJ kind of stole pretty much all of my thunder. Thank you very much. No, I don't think anything's going to happen the rest of the year, right? I would be surprised, since we're approaching the holidays. I mean, they could surprise us, maybe they do a Marriott card refresh, possibly. Doubt it, but possibly. I think they're set. I don't think they're going to make any changes through the end of the year. They'll get through the holidays and there'll be really good Amex offers like there were last year, and everything will be hunky dory, and then we'll get to into 2025. I'm right there with RJ. Like, I would love to see a personal 1.5 or 2x card. It just makes sense, and obviously zero annual fee. I'd love to see that mobile wallet. I know mobile wallets becoming more and more popular. I started using mine a little bit more. I'd love to see a multiplier, even if it's on. I mean, the platinum card would be great, but even if it's on give me any card, gold or even whatever. If they do make a 2x, I mean, I'd be happy with 2x mobile. I mean, that's fine. Make it a hey, we're going to give you here's a new 2x card. And yeah, it's, maybe they make it a 1.5 and they kick it up to 2 for mobile wallet or something, something like that. I would love to see that. I don't know what's coming next year. I don't know. I could see if they stay pat with everything as they are now. I could see the Marriott cards getting changed next year, getting refreshed next year. I would say the green card is going to get changed at some point. I mean, we're all thinking it. So whatever it gets, morphed into, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I still think they're battening down the hatches and they're tightening the ship. And I agree with RJ. It's going to piss off a lot of people. I think they've already started pissing off people, right? So you see the conversations everywhere and or hear them everywhere. But I think at the end of the day, though, Amex is going to be fine. They're not going anywhere. The last two quarters they've announced, financials, they've broken records. So, Amex is going nowhere.
Yep. All right. Do you guys have any closing thoughts beyond Amex is going nowhere?
I want them to make some of the cards prettier, but that's a small thing. Just like a couple of the designs could be a little better. That's all I'm saying. Or an actual request that I have talked about elsewhere. Please just make the 2 cash cards allowed to also give you MR points instead of cash, because that would solve 90% of my problems with Amex on the category side. So Amex, just let me hit a toggle and get MR. That's all.
Yeah, that'd be useful.
The only thing I have is if they do revamp the platinum card next year and increase make the annual fee $8.95, $9.95, whatever it is, the credits have to be amazing to offset it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, okay, if they're going to do that, what are you going to do to offset that? And obviously with, what they did with the gold was, I mean, the gold credits are, like I said, I know they're not for everybody. I know it's not for everybody, but for a lot of us, the credits are easy and they easily offset the card price, annual fee. So I'm assuming, I could be wrong because we know what assuming does, but if they do the same thing with the platinum card, they make the credits, I would say, I don't know, easily obtainable, but they make it so that you can, wipe out the annual fee with using those credits.
Absolutely. Well, John, RJ, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for carving out some time for me. And really good stuff here on the Amex, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So thank you very much, guys.